Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of From the District with State Representative Suzanne Weber. My name is Adam Schwend, and I am again here, as always, with the illustrious Representative Suzanne Weber. Representative, how are you?
Oh, I am just fine.
You're home.
I'm home, and it's quite a shock to me because I sit and listen and watch all week long, and then I come home and I have to weed. And my son came and we did rototilling and took out some shrubs and things like that. And so I probably will welcome being able to sit again next week because I'll probably be so sore.
I moved appliances today, so
that sounds like fun.
It was a blast. Other than my eyes going blurry looking at bills and committee hearings and all that fun stuff, it actually was a welcome little break.
I bet. I'm going to have my eyes checked here pretty soon because the font size on some of those bills is so small that I come away sometimes with a headache from reading bills because some of them are really, really long and they take a lot of concentration. And those whereases and all of the numbers that are assigned to all of the laws that you might have to look up to see how they apply. It's taking a toll on my eyesight.
Well, and
I'm not alone.
And you've got to stare at computer screens for committee hearings, which is not the way it normally is done. Usually they're in committee rooms,
right?
Together with everyone. And unfortunately, that is not the case this time around. Well, things have gotten kind of hot and heavy here.
They have.
Usually in the legislature, the first few months, everybody's getting to know each other. Everybody's kind of read each other. And so the bills are usually the fluff, the ones that are going to pass 60-0 for the most part. So those days are gone.
Yes, they are.
And so we had over these last few weeks, since we've done the last one of these, we've had some tough ones. But one of the big changes that all of the listeners and watchers here, I'm sure, watch all the proceedings on OLIS, on the Oregon Legislative Information Service. And if they did, they noticed that bill reading got a lot shorter.
It sure did.
Instead of reading the entirety of the bills, we just hear the title of the bills. What happened?
Well, it says in the Constitution that the bills are to be read or can be read. And I think that is a really important aspect to be able to, once again, hear what's gone on in a committee, to be able to make a valid decision. And I'll tell you that there is a lot of discussion about these bills before they even come to the floor. But there was a time when it was decided that if we needed to be able to move a little more quickly. And I will say that many of us were reticent to do that. However, we did, I don't know if you'd call it bargaining or.
Oh, I would.
Anyway, we got something really important in exchange for reading those bills. One of those things is that we as Republicans now have equal representation on the redistricting committee. That is worth a lot. Because many of our districts are going to be have the possibility of being heavily impacted by the decisions that are going to be made. And so it behooves us to have people who understand our districts and our way of life there to represent us. And then in addition to that, we were each given $2 million if you were a legislator, and $4 million if you were a senator, to apply to special projects within your district. Now, there was a lot of back and forth because we were asked to prepare the district priorities for spending. And then, that is probably going to take quite some time because we still don't have guidance from the federal government as to how those ARPA funds, those rescue funds, are going to be spent. But at least we have the ability to discern some really important projects within our district that we can put money towards. And $2 million is not a lot of money when you're looking at a sewer plant that can cost $8 to $10 to $12 million, or a city hall that will cost $13 million. But there are projects within the district that can really move along and get support with that $2 million. And so we have had several committee meetings. By that, I mean Senator Johnson and Representative Witt and myself met and discussed all of our possible projects and how we could share being able to support some of these worthwhile endeavors throughout the district. And we came up with a list. Okay, that list now that we have all of the information will be submitted to the speaker on Monday. And then the speaker will decide with all of the regulations that are possibly going to come to us from the federal government, if the projects that we have suggested will be able to be funded. And so I haven't said out loud what I have proposed for the projects for my $2 million, but because it'll probably be October before that money is let out to the district. Government moves very slowly sometimes. And like I said, we don't have the regulations yet from the federal government as to how that money, the ARPA money coming into the state in all of the different tranches, is going to be able to be spent. So, but I heard that the $2 million was coming to me, and I wouldn't, that is total bogus piece of information. Nobody is going to be benefiting personally from this. This is money that is going to go to our district that's going to be able to help projects in our district, whether it's as far north as Astoria or as far south as Tillamook. I also wanted to tell you that I did participate in the Washington County discussions about all of the projects that are being proposed in the Washington County area, because I am also a representative for part of Washington County. And they are in the process right now of choosing how they are going to allocate that money. And I think, those people are so dedicated at what they do. I think they're having a meeting tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock to put the final.
Hi, Martin.
To put the final list together. Martin had to, of course, add something. I'm sorry.
That's all right. So I want to note a couple of things because you hit on a whole lot. First of all, Representative, I'll say you look like a disembodied head. So if you could lower your iPad down just a little bit. Hey, there we go. So you mentioned Senator Johnson and Representative Witt. So for those folks who aren't really into how the districts are divided, every Senate district also encompasses 2 House districts. So Senator Betsy Johnson represents her Senate district, and within it, she is joined by 2 House representatives, yourself and Representative Brad Witt. So I'm very glad to hear that you guys got together so that you can say, let's come together and figure out how much, if we can make sure we're not duplicating efforts, making sure that we are spreading these funds around the district as much as possible. And I think one of the big things, one of the big wins of this being kind of a trade-off to get your buy-in to stop reading the bills in totem is it's pretty well understood that a lot of this money was going to go to Portland, or a lot of this money is going to go to Eugene, and now some of this money's coming to us.
I was going to say that because, in the discussion in the Washington County area, there was one figure that was thrown about, that there was a possibility of $58 million being able to come to their area, the Beaverton, Portland area. Okay, look at that area, and then look at $2 million coming to our area. If this had not happened, that $2 million most likely would be also going to the Portland area.
Yes, definitely. I think was a good trade-off. Go ahead.
And I think it also it points out that as legislators, we need to know the needs of our districts, and we need to be in touch with people, and we need to know the needs. Do you need sewer? Do you need water? Do you need resiliency? What kind of needs do you have, at the present time that could possibly be met with something that wouldn't be in the millions of dollars? And there are lots of those needs.
One thing that I have really appreciated, so when this first started, before this deal was struck, when we knew this money was going to come and it was going to be to Oregon about $1.2 billion. We didn't know anything about it. We just knew it was going to be about $1.2 billion. So the speaker sent to your office and all the legislators' office
Yes.
a one-pager saying, throw everything to the wall.
Yes.
Tell us everything that you want and turn in as many of these one-pagers for as many projects as you want. Well, we did. So we reached out, this office, your office, reached out to especially the mayors, but as well as some of the small special districts, saying, what do you got? Throw it all to the wall. We don't know what we're going to get. We might as well. Well, when we found out when we put all the legislative districts together, even though only $1.2 billion was coming to Oregon, about $36 billion worth of requests came in.
Right. We had at least $30 billion worth of requests.
Yeah. And I think one thing that was really good about that is that we found out in the district, you found out in the district, some stuff that was needed that maybe we're not going to be able to secure through these funds because they're larger things, but maybe there's other ways we can.
There are other ways. Yeah. There are other pots of money that we can possibly use to be able to accomplish this. There's, lottery funds. There's additional funds through, what I can't remember the name of what the fund is, but there are 3 other pots of money that could possibly use for some of these things.
And one of the things I was really impressed by was all of the projects that you especially were considering, and I'm not going to get into what they were because you and I talked about them, but still a lot to be decided, was that you were focusing really on infrastructure. That infrastructure and education as well, but mostly infrastructure. You didn't want to create new government programs.
Nope.
You didn't want to create things that didn't be funded in the future. These were special infrastructure programs that really need to be addressed here in our district.
Something that could be handled at one time, the whole project, and then not to have a maintenance worry into the future.
Right.
Because and there are a lot of places. It was pointed out to me one day this last week that, some of our water lines in our cities are 80 to 100 years old. They're wooden. We have a lot of water infrastructure that needs to be replaced. And I know about Tillamook and Tillamook's unique water issues, but all up the coast, all through our district, people are looking at those same challenges. How are we going to be able to fund being able to replace our water lines?
Yeah. Well, so moving on a little bit from that, going back to the other thing that was part of the deal to cease the reading of bills, and that was equal representation on the redistricting
Yes.
committee. The policy committees are divided with more Democrats than there are Republicans, and that's fair. There are more Democrats won
Because there's
elections.
more Democrats than there are Republicans.
But the non-policy committees, the ones that are particularly sensitive, are often equally split. The conduct committee, for example, that is equally split. For good reason, because if you were thinking about something so serious as punishing, disciplining one of your colleagues to the point of even expelling them from the House, which you almost had to do this session, that can't be even perceived as something that is partisan.
Right, it can't be.
And I think that you guys made a good decision that I don't think that redistricting can be viewed as partisan either. So
it can't
this is a great move.
It can't be. You have to look at the structure, the political structure of the entire state, and you have to look at where the main population is. But you also have to realize that all of the people in Eastern Oregon and down the coast also have to be supported on that committee.
Right. So I think that was a great move, and I think it was just a good policy move, whether it was attached to some sort of bargain or not. I think the people of Oregon, assuming there's a lot to happen, assuming that those maps are drawn by the legislature through those committees, I think the people of Oregon are going to feel a lot better that their districts aren't being gerrymandered, knowing that it's a 50-50 split.
And I'll tell you that, okay, so the work is going to be done by this committee, and the census data will come out, and that will add to the decision making. And then in September, right now, there is a week that is going to be dedicated for us to be in the Capitol, to be able to discuss this and look at the conclusions that this committee comes with. But until that time, that is in the hands of that committee.
Excellent. Well, I also want to address one of the big rumors that I think some frustrated folks have spread about your colleagues. And one of it was that $2 million really came to you as in exchange for you staying to vote on a controversial gun bill. Is that at all true?
Not at all true. Not at all true. That is a total fabrication. To have not been there, to have voted on that bill would have been completely irresponsible. We're charged with some weighty decisions. We need to be present and to be able to make those decisions, and we were.
Right, and I think one of the things that some folks forget is that we technically, and we'll talk about this a little later, are under a gubernatorially declared state of emergency. And when you have a state of emergency, after the session is over,
I'll call you back.
She's a busy person. After the session is over, the governor could call another special session with almost no quorum rules and then pass the bill anyway.
Exactly.
And what you guys got really had nothing to do with being here or not. So walking out for denying quorum during this session just means this bill would have come back probably in July in a special session and there would have been no way to just walk out. It would have passed. You wanted to pass now, or you want to pass in 30 days? It just.
Well, the other thing is, if you're not there, you don't have any input.
Right.
And this was another bill that had, I think it had 38 amendments. And so it went back and forth and back and forth. So there was an extreme amount of discussion that surrounded it. And I think that in the end, I do not agree with the final product, and I was there to vote, and they know my feelings, and they know the feelings of many others. But that was our responsibility to be there.
And I think you would also agree, and we've talked about this with a number of people, is that denying a quorum is a tool in the toolbox that can be
Yes.
used at certain times. But when denying a quorum simply means that that bill is going to come back in 2 months and be passed anyway, what's the point?
Yeah, there is no point.
All it does is hand the other side a club to beat you over the head with, saying, well, they didn't even show up.
Right.
Yeah. So that bill was, that discussion was incredibly emotional. I watched the whole thing, and it was just,
well, it was a 3-hour debate, and the time passed very quickly because the testimony in the debate was very powerful, very meaningful, and it came from the hearts of the people that were testifying. Not testifying, but well, it was a testimony in a debate, but the arguments that they had were amazingly touching. The people that testified were definitely in touch with reality, the reality of the gun situation. You know, we all know that 0.007 of all convicted violent crimes are because of people with concealed weapon carries. That's 0.007 of all. And you're going to punish the people that have the concealed carry. And I'll tell you, do I know who carries these guns? No, they're concealed. Do I feel better if they're there? Most definitely.
Right.
But it is not my business to be able to tell them where they can have them and where they can't.
And I think in our discussions, one of the things that I saw from you is this: the supporters of this bill, and all you can do is take them for what they say. We're concerned about lowering gun violence, and I think that's a laudable goal for everybody. But this bill doesn't do that.
No, it doesn't. It does nothing
0.07%.
to lower it. No, it does nothing to address AK-47s or high-powered rapid firing guns. It doesn't do anything to do with that. One thing that we really tried to push was additional education concerning guns. And we weren't very successful, but education has got to be a big part of gun ownership, that along with responsibility. And I don't think that we achieved that in that gun bill, but it did pass.
My dad taught me how to use an axe. My dad taught me how to use a car. Those are tools. And he taught me how to use a gun, and it's a tool. And if you're not educated on how to use it, you're going to probably use it the wrong way. And unfortunately, this bill was aimed at people who have been educated on how to use their guns as tools the right way. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it caused so much animus between between voters. We got a lot of very cranky emails from people because people are cranky about it, and rightfully so. It was unfortunate, but it has, as of now, it has passed the Senate. It passed the House. The House actually shoved a whole bunch more stuff into it.
Yes, they did.
Go back to the Senate for concurrence, which it did. And now I believe it's sitting on the governor's desk, and I would be absolutely shocked if she didn't sign it. So
I am sure she would. But this points out something else, and that is that we have an issue with suicide. And that is exacerbated by the situation, by the COVID situation.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that needed to be addressed as part of that was also mental health issues. And, years ago when they took the counselors out of the schools,
Mm.
and we didn't have that available to children to be able to reach out to have alternative ways to handle the angst that they were suffering. We're now seeing the result of that.
Right.
And
I
so
believe you're working on a bill with Representative Neron on this Democrat from Wilsonville to hopefully bring, at least study, to bring counselors back into school and address mental health. So kudos to you both for reaching across the aisle to get something good done. So that bill has that gun bill has passed. One thing it does not have.
Something else we need to talk about is Senate Bill 282.
We will. That's next on the list. But I do want to say that the gun bill does not have an emergency clause.
No.
So it can be referred to the ballot. So folks, if you are really, really upset about that bill, and I totally get it, I think Representative Weber gets it, start working, get signatures, get it referred to the ballot. And, if I were the group that was really, really upset about that, one of the things I'd be doing is starting to put a lawsuit together. There are other ways of dealing with this than beating up on legislators who are supposed to be on your side.
Right.
So, Senate Bill 282. Let's pivot over to housing.
Yes. Now that's another interesting bill. We had all of that money in one of our last sessions that I did not participate in that went out for landlord renter relief. And because we have hurting renters and we have hurting landlords. And there was supposed to be, we were supposed to be getting a lot of money for those folks. Because this, like I say, this was allocated long before I became active in January. And to this day, very little of that money has gone out to landlords or renters for that relief at this time. And it just points out another failure that our government has in being able to administer these programs. When you look at unemployment and you look at the DMV and you look at various other agencies that are having a difficult time, this is another one. We have landlords that haven't had any rent for 14 months.
Wow.
And we have, at the same time, we have renters who don't feel secure because they're not able to pay their rent. So I am very upset about this particular bill and all of its ramifications, especially since we now had a second round released of money when the first round hasn't been paid out. And over again, we're saying, oh, there should be money coming out in 60 to 90 days. 60 to 90 days can be a death sentence for a lot of people. We can't continue to do this.
So what you were referencing, I think what happened in a special session last summer.
Last summer.
The agreement was struck that if landlords would forgive
20%.
Yeah, forgive 20% of the owed rent.
Yes.
That they could apply to this new program to receive 80%.
Yes.
Be made not totally whole, but at least get something.
They would be made 80% whole is what they would.
And so they, I think within a few months, they had a computer system up and going that you could apply. They announced to the whole world that, look at all these people who have applied. But here we are, 9 months later.
No
and
money.
I was personally offended when I saw an email come through asking you to tell your constituents that the second round's opening up, make sure you apply. Well,
exactly.
How could we tell them that when the first round dollars haven't even made it to them yet? And you keep telling us 60 to 90 days. That's unacceptable. And so what this bill is, we should probably talk about what the bill actually does. The bill actually would extend the forgiveness, the period to pay back your rent.
Right.
You would have had, without this bill, renters who haven't paid anything would have, and have not been part of this program,
Right.
would have until the end of June.
And then they would have to pay it all back.
They would have to pay it all back. And this extends it into till February of 2022.
Right.
And,
I know.
And you are put in an unfortunate place where you've got landlords hurting and you've got renters hurting,
Exactly.
all because of the failure of a state agency. And now you're being
Yes.
put into a place of having to choose.
Yes.
So what did you do?
Well, that's still to be decided. We are still discussing that bill.
Yes. So
and I will tell you that my file on that bill is about 2.5 inches thick.
Yeah. A lot of testimony, and I know you opposed it in committee, but I think a lot, along with Representative Zika.
Representative Zika had an additional amendment. He had what you call a -8, the 8th amendment to the bill, and that was voted down narrowly in the last housing meeting. And so it was, then the bill was voted on, and it will move now.
And
It'll go out of committee.
The sad thing was Representative Zika and Vice Chair Lily Morgan just asked for another 4 days to work with legislative
Exactly.
Because it sounded like you guys were close.
We were close. If we'd have just had 4 more days to be able to work this out, it would have been amicable to everyone, I am sure. And a lot of people agreed that, yes, that could possibly solve the problem. However, when it came to voting, it didn't.
That's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that you were so close to a bipartisan solution, and for the sake of 4 days,
Right.
the majority refused to work bipartisanly, and that's unfortunate. But let's talk about bipartisanship now, because you guys, yourself, a number of Democrats as well, a number of Republicans, all came to do something that was pretty rare, and it was actually to withdraw a bill from committee and pull it to the House floor for an immediate vote.
Yes.
That's rare. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before.
No, I bet it was rare. Everybody had to check the books to make sure the procedure was being handled correctly. But unfortunately, it was almost, it was very close.
Yeah.
And it
so
would
this
have,
particular bill, I mean, there were a
it
number
would
of
have done so much good. Yes.
Yeah, there were a number
And
of
they
bills.
were all,
Yeah.
they were all related in that, that the legislature should be a part of making some of these decisions. These decisions are being made by our governor, and we have not even had a chance to ratify a lot of her decisions. And in the past, that was always the way it was, is that she made a decision and then it was ratified by the legislature. And we have not had that opportunity. And so a lot of the decisions that have been being made for our lives have been made unilaterally by the governor.
Right. So one of the ones that I think was particularly interesting, there was a bill in committee that would have returned things to the way they were, which was a governor can declare a state of emergency.
Yes.
For 60 days. Yeah, for 2 months. After that time, the legislature has to come together and ratify it, and if she wants to extend it.
Yes.
And that's the way it always was until last year. And that was given up, and now the governor can declare a state of emergency after state of emergency after state of emergency forever.
She can keep it going forever.
And I think one of the things that you guys
no
pointed
recourse.
Yeah, and I think one of the things you pointed out was not only should no governor actually have this power, but no governor should have to bear this responsibility with
Exactly.
nobody else. And the legislature, and let's be honest, if we're talking about the current state of emergency, chances are
Yes.
the current legislature would have continued it as long as she wants it.
You know, I'm sure they would have in this case.
But then you
However,
guys own it. Then you own it. It's
right.
not just her. Right now,
Right.
it's all on her. And I don't think that's fair to the
I
legislature.
don't think
It
it's
takes away
fair.
your power, but it's not
I don't
fair to
think it's
her
fair
because
to
now
the
it all lays on her.
I don't think it's fair to the legislature, and I don't think it's fair to her.
And I don't think a lot of her political allies understand that.
No,
And the
They
funny
don't.
thing about this particular bill probably wouldn't have applied to this state of emergency because it had no emergency clause. It wouldn't have gone into effect until
Right.
September. And God willing, we'll be out of this by then.
hopefully we'll be out of it by then. Of course, we don't know, but no, that was, it was an embarrassment, actually.
And really, I was impressed. The entirety of the Coastal Caucus House members, Democrats and Republicans,
Yes,
all
Democrats
voted for
and
it.
Republicans.
It was not just Republicans trying to do a sleight of hand
Mhm.
parliamentary trick. This was both parties saying, and not just like conservative Democrats. There were some pretty left-leaning Democrats. Representative Wilde, I believe, from Eugene.
Yes,
He wanted to do this. Because we can fight all day about policy, but at the end of the day, this is about the legislature, being a co-equal branch of government,
exactly.
and being able to be a check on the executive, and who knows what the emergency is going to be like, and who the governor is going to be
Right,
in 2 or 4 or 10 or 40 years.
right. But we as legislators have a responsibility to be involved in that decision.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of those things. You can't let government happen to you. You have to be involved and you have to participate. And that ability to participate was taken away from the legislature.
One of the funny things I saw on Twitter, because that's always a good place to find things, was one of your colleagues saying, well, that bill shouldn't have had a vote. It didn't even have a public hearing yet. Well, that's because you guys haven't given it one.
Exactly. We had 4,000 bills. The number that we have heard in committee is pretty gosh darn low in comparison to that 4,000 number. And yes, time is of the essence, but there are some bills that have been completely overlooked and not heard at all that would be or something that we need societally to consider.
Right, and I think we can all call that legislator out and say, well, let's fix it. Schedule a hearing. Let's have a public hearing. Let's have a work session. The Rules Committee is one of those committees that is not bound by deadlines. They can pass a bill out of committee and send it to the floor any day of the week.
Anytime they want, yes.
So let's do it. Let's see it. If you are that concerned about a bill not having a public hearing, let's see it. In reality, unfortunately, I think they just were trying to make an excuse. But I will say, you had a wonderful post on Facebook about that, and you got a very, very positive reaction. And I think that's because the people want you to have a voice. You are their elected representative, and you are their voice, and they feel like their voice is being silenced, and that's not fair. So good job. You tried.
Thank you.
You tried.
And I've been assigned to a new committee also.
Hey, good news time. Let's move to good news. And I guess it's kind of good news.
The health committee.
Yes, the healthcare. Now, I was talking to you beforehand. I get the education committee. You were a teacher for 30 years. And I get the housing committee. When you were mayor of Tillamook, housing was a huge part of your work. I don't get the healthcare committee. Explain to me how you ended up there.
How I got there. Well, Christine Drazen, Representative Drazen, was assigned to the redistricting committee. And so she was in the health committee. And so she suggested that I be appointed, and Speaker Kotek appointed me to that committee. And I do have a special, I have been involved in the Tillamook County Wellness Group, the school district wellness group. I do have a special, I don't know what you call it, interest in healthy living. And I feel that I can contribute to that.
Well, that's going to be, it's a new area of policy that I now have to
And
learn.
you're going to learn a lot.
Housing, in my other life, I think most people know that I'm in real estate. So that has been a real joy for me, and to help you in that committee. Education, my wife, before we had our kids, was an elementary school teacher for 11
yes.
years. So I learned a lot from both of you on that. So now this is a whole new area of policy that I have never been involved in, that I'm going to learn about. So
just wait. There's some exciting things coming there too.
I am excited. And your vice chair there, from the Republican vice chair, is Representative Hayden, who's a dentist, quite a Renaissance man himself, also a logger, and
a pastor.
And a pastor and a legislator. So
and a dentist.
He's quite the guy.
Well-rounded.
Yes. It is now 51 days by my counting before sine die, the day the legislature is supposed to conclude its work. Anything else that you want to share before we say goodnight to everybody and let them get going?
Well, we worked really hard at the beginning. We had lots and lots of hearings in committees, and you just learned so much. And then when everything that we had done moved over to the Senate, then we started getting things from the Senate. And so we had a little lull there. And now we're going to hit it again with all of our public hearings and work sessions on different bills, because all of those bills from the Senate then have to go through the same process as all the bills that came to us from the House. And the Senate is now reading all of their bills as we were in the beginning. And so things are moving a little more slowly over there. And we seem to be clipping right along.
Well, I know probably one of the things we're going to be talking about in the next one of these is that the Ways and Means process is moving forward. And so I'm sure we'll be talking about that in a couple of weeks when we do these again. And,
I have been involved in several meetings to be able to learn how exactly the Ways and Means operates, how to be able to read the budget, how to be able to look at the fiscal impacts of these bills, and how to look at the key performance indicators of different agencies. And so I have learned a lot about that. And I know that the decisions that Ways and Means are required to make are very difficult, but it's interesting to see all that they have to take into consideration before deciding how the money is going to be allocated.
And one of the great blessings that we have here in rural Northwest Oregon is one of the co-chairs is Senator Betsy Johnson.
And we also have David Gomberg, who is also.
He's not a co-chair, but he is, I believe, one of the co-chairs of one of the subcommittees.
Subcommittees of Ways and Means, yes.
So we are I think we're pretty well representative here at the coast. And
which is something else I should point out, is that being a part of the Coastal Caucus, it doesn't make any difference whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, what your political leaning is. We come together every week and we discuss the pertinent issues that are, to our area, and we work together.
Right. And I love those meetings when I don't forget about them, because it's like the meeting that I always forget. This is the virtual government. I can't walk in the room. I love watching you guys, because staff rarely chimes in too much, but we really, really like to watch you guys, because it isn't partisan, and I mean, you guys don't really use formal titles. And much. It's a bit saltier than some of the other meetings.
Yeah, it is. But there are some, we can take up an issue for our constituents as a group, and hopefully be able to resolve it. The issues that are related to fishing and the ocean, we can take that all up as a group and understand it more clearly, because of, we have guests every week to describe these things to us, tell us, what's going on, whether it's, gill netters or sports fishermen or tuna or all of those things.
Well, I think one of the great things that in our office that we have is a real fortunate thing is we have Katie Pritchard. Her
She's
family,
a gem.
she is her family is in crabbing and
Yes.
and commercial crabbing, so she brings a ton of policy that I don't have. Again, my policy
Right.
is mostly in housing, and hers is in fishing. So two big policy sides that we're happy to help you with, but with Katie, especially in the Coastal Caucus, she is
Yes.
so great to have.
She arranged a meeting for me this afternoon with one of the fishermen, and it was very interesting discussion, and he educated me on several issues that are coming up in the legislature, and I find that very valuable.
Yeah, it's really one of the many things I respect about you is when the big issues are coming up, you don't necessarily call somebody in Salem, you don't call somebody in DC, you call a fisherman in Astoria, or you call a crabber in Garibaldi, you call a tree farmer or a logger in Banks.
Yes.
Those are the people you're representing. You're not representing the lobbyists. You're representing the folks who are at home. So I'm glad you're doing that. Any last minute things before we call it a night?
No, but once again, I am grateful to be able to do this, to be able to share with you some of the experiences that are ultimately going to be affecting your lives, just as they are affecting mine. And I want you to know that if you need to contact me, I am always open to speaking with you. And if there's anything you need special help on, you can also reach out to me. So thank you. Thank you for electing me and putting me in this position. Thank you.
Well, we definitely thank you, Representative, as well for doing this and being there for us. If folks, if you need to, would like to contact Representative Weber, you can do that by going to her website, representativeweber.com. Again, www.representativeweber.com. And you can call her, leave her a message, because right now during session, we will get back to you. Either she or her staff will get back to you. And the number there is 503-300-4493. Again, 503-300-4493. And again, if you go to www.representativeweber.com, spell representative and only one B in Weber, you'll be able to go to the
Yes.
contact page, and you'll be able to reach her there.
Don't
Anything else?
hesitate to reach out. Honestly.
They don't. Trust me, they don't. Well, thank you, everyone. Happy Mother's Day, Representative. Tomorrow,
Thank you.
we were recording this the day before Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day. And I'll be seeing you soon, and
Yes.
we'll see all of you here
Thank
in a
you.
few weeks. Thanks so
Yes,
much.
thank you. Bye.